So apparently Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis are going to fight in Atlanta, Georgia on November 15th on Netflix. Um, I think this is true as well because a few days ago there was a story floating about where Gervonta had two options, or three: retire, rematch Lamont Roach Jr. for 10 million, and the fight he arguably lost. They won't really get him any credit if he does win, or fight Jake Paul for apparently 30 million on Netflix. Just to give you an idea, Gervonta Davis is 5'5", and I wouldn't be surprised if that's a lie and he's 5'4". Jake Paul on the other hand is 6'1", but he looks more like 6'2" to me. I'm 6 foot and he looks definitely an inch taller than me. I'd say Jake Paul's 6'2", but apparently he's 6'1". Gervonta Davis in his early career won world titles at 130 pounds. He fought at 130 pounds. I think if Gervonta was walking around at 160, he'd be fat. The highest we've ever seen him go up was against Barrios, and I'm pretty sure that was a. I'll have to check. Was that a 140 or 147? Wow, it was actually at super lightweight. So yeah, junior welterweight, 140 pounds. In my head, I was thinking 147 because Barrios is the champion there. Although even though he's a world champion, he's one of the worst world champions, and that maybe the worst welterweight world champion ever. Welterweight has for the last 20 years always been stacked at all times. But for some reason now, it seems to be the division that actually hasn't been stacked that much recent years. They've all moved up to 154. So 147, slim pickings right now. In any other era, Barrios wouldn't have even got a title shot, let alone be a reigning champion. He arguably lost his last fight to Pacquiao. Some people say he probably didn't, but his fight before that, I definitely thought he lost against what's the guy's name? Abel Ramos. Abel Ramos, by the way, I just checked, hasn't even got a Wikipedia page, so that's the level of opponent. I watched that fight, it was a wicked fight, and I think Abel Ramos was harshly done by not to win that fight. He was the B-side, last minute journeyman brought in. I don't know about last minute, but he wasn't there to win in the promoter's eyes. And he got a draw. So in boxing terms, if you got a draw and you're the B side, you were brought in to get to be the whipping boy. That means you won the fight definitely, in almost all circumstances. But this is insane to think that Jake Paul was calling out Joshua, and a lot of people think it was just for talk. But I think he's got his head in the clouds, and his what's the word? His ego sort of control. That I think he actually probably thinks he could beat Anthony Joshua, or at least put up a decent fight. Whereas anyone who knows anything about boxing, Anthony Joshua would viciously KO him within 2 rounds. And the only reason he wouldn't do it in the first is because boxers never seem to do much in the first. But I think if Joshua wanted to, he could get him out of there in 30 to a minute. Just the first flurry of punches he lands, he could probably get Paul out of there. At the very best, the first flurry Paul could maybe get up from because he didn't get hit him clean, and then he'd definitely be hitting him clean then, and he'd be going night for a long time. And that's no knock on Paul. I actually don't even hate on Paul. I think he's kind of funny sometimes, and it makes me laugh how much people hate him because it's just playing into his troll games. But he's just a young kid living his dream, doing his thing. But he's 6'1". I'm 6 foot, and I don't think he's 6'1". I think he's at least 6'2". He's about a 210 pound guy, 190 in shape. 185 in real tip-top lean shape. Gervonta Davis is 5'5", has fought as low as 130, like I said. And I mean, he struggled at 140 with Barrios. He got him out of there in the end, but he struggled, got hit a lot, and Barrios is not a good fighter. Gervonta Davis, I wouldn't be surprised if they're lying about his 5'5" height and he actually is 5'4" or something, because he is tiny. And as hard as he hits, weight classes are for a reason. And even if you're not a super skilled fighter, if you're a big, strong, athletic geezer like Jake Paul is, and you're in your late 20s, which he is, Gervonta is 30, Jake's 28, you're going to have some punch resistance. You're going to be able to take a punch. I mean, there is a world where over time Gervonta can maybe break him down, but I think if Jake does what he knows he needs to do, which is just crowd him, clinch him, lean on him, hang on him, take his legs away, just lean all his 200 pounds onto him, then he can obviously stifle the fight and possibly go to a draw or something, because it's an exhibition, so I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up as a draw. This is embarrassing for Gervonta and embarrassing for Davis. He's one of the best fighters in boxing, has been for a few years now. Duck Lomachenko hasn't fought any of the top fighters. He's basically, if you look at his actual titles, almost all of them are WBA regulars. So almost all of his world title fights have been. There's not just another 3 champions who have got belts who are arguing to be the best. There's actually a guy in the same sanctioning body who has the WBA, standard or super, depending on what you have. So it's just pretty pathetic. He obviously just doesn't want to lose. But it's crazy because he's so talented and we want to see him against these fighters. The only fighter people say he stepped up against was Ryan Garcia, but he weight drained him. But Ryan Garcia has never won a world title. And the only time he beat a guy who had a world title, he didn't make weight, he was way overweight, and he was on drugs. So, and that's not even allegedly. He literally was. He was penalised and was out for a year. So, and people say Ryan Garcia is a top guy. He's never won a world title. How is Ryan Garcia? Until you won a world title, you are not a top guy. And Ryan Garcia's, in his mid to late 20s now. He's got to be at least 26 now, surely. So, I don't get that. And also, what's interesting is Paul seems to be the A side, which I didn't think Gervonta would be willing to have. Jake, let me get rid of this. Jake Paul is the A side, which is that's pretty interesting to me. Obviously, more details come out about it. This is going to do huge numbers on Netflix. It's going to be insane to see them next to each other, standing next to each other, and it's going to be insane to see what happens. Where a super high level skilled boxer, like I'm actually quite interested to see what happens because we've got a super high level elite, super fast, super explosive, an absolute dynamite hitting fighter, but who is literally a little manlet. Let's be real. Gervonta Davis, you could pick him up and put him in your pocket. He is tiny, and it's no disrespect. The man is tiny. He is absolutely tiny, and even at these low little weight classes, he still his opponents are way bigger than him. Do you know what I mean? He fought 122 pounder Santo Cruz and Leo Santa Cruz, sorry, and then Santa Cruz is way bigger than him. Like he was obviously built like a beanpole, but still. But what's going to be really interesting to see is a guy who's a big, strong guy, which Jake Paul is, who can whack a bit himself, who's not the most skilled, doesn't have the most experience, but he should be able to take a shot. He should be able to work his way around the ring slightly. He's had the experience. He won't be overwhelmed by the moment because he's been in there with massive crowds. And I know Mike Tyson was 100, but it's still Mike Tyson, and people still have that thought in their head, don't they? Most people, anyway. So he won't be overawed by the situation. And the crowd and stuff like that. And for Gervonta, I mean, he's a proud guy. I mean, he might be a small little dude, but he's not going to want to lose to Jake Paul in Atlanta. It don't matter if, as a fighter, don't care if the guy's like much bigger than that. He ain't a true fighter. Gervonta's a true fighter and a real street kid, a real, he's a real guy from the streets. You know what I mean? Or at least he comes from those type of streets in Baltimore. So he's really not going to want to lose. It'll be very embarrassing, humiliating, especially if he gets knocked out, which I don't think will happen. Interesting to see how many rounds it is. I think the more rounds, the more rounds I think it could be bad for either guy. It's hard to say because if Jake leans on him and stuff, it could work out bad for Gervonta for it going long. But it'd be interesting to see how. I really want to see how long how many rounds are at. Obviously, they'd be 3 minutes this time because he's not fighting a geriatric. But I'm really interested to see this fight because I always want to see a super elite skilled small guy go up against almost an average Joe big guy to see what would happen. And Jake isn't a giant, but he's big enough and he's got a few years boxing. He's got a little bit of ring awareness and a little bit of skill set. He's not a complete dunce like everyone says. He's not no great shakes, obviously. He's a journeyman boxer at best, but like Tommy Fury beat him for God's sake, and if you've seen Tommy Fury fight since then, Tommy Fury is absolutely useless. So by all metrics, Gervonta Davis should beat him if he can stay out of the clinch, move around, not get hit, and keep him moving. But man, I am actually genuinely, call me a casual, I'm really excited to see this fight. I hope it happens. It'll be really interesting to see the dynamic, the psychology, the mind games they both play, and to just see what happens in the ring when a super elite, high power, explosive banger of a boxer goes up against like an average Joe big dude. It's going to be really fun to see what happens. So yeah, let me know what you guys think, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Give me a like, give me a comment, give me a subscribe, and let me know in the comment section what you think about this fight. And I'll catch you guys in the next video.
Hold on, brother, I'm talking.